Hi, how are you?
Great, and yourself there?
Good, thank you. Okay, well, given the circumstances, pretty good.
Exactly. Are you quarantined in Montreal at the moment?
Yeah, I haven't left my house in like a good 2 weeks, or if not more, since like March 13th.
Has that led to discovery of any new hobbies or passions?
Mostly cleaning, and then continuing to obviously work on my music. All my free time just goes to like cleaning up my house and music.
Well, it's a good thing that Black Sheep was finished a long time ago, or at least I presume it was finished a long time ago, because sometimes you hear about album release dates and the album's not actually done. In your case, it was done?
Yeah, it was already finished. We were just in the mixing process when we picked the release date. So not too much to like continue to harp on there. You know, the actual recording process was finished. It was mostly just getting the track sounding as good as they could in post.
And it's a bit of a stylistic change. You worked with some interesting producers on this album. Do you have a favorite song on the album?
It's really hard to pick a favorite. It's like picking a favorite child, you know. Each one of these songs, they carry just so much sentimental value. There's two songs on the album that have the most sentimental value, and those are Bubbles and Turn Down the Sound, because those are two songs that, one of them, Bubbles, was written solely by Rod Temperton, who was my mentor and one of my best friends, and he passed away, I think it's in 2016, so it's been a while now. And so that one and Turn Down the Sound I co-wrote with Rod. So those two songs are really, really special to me on the record.
Now, Rod wrote some of the most famous songs in the history of music, yet himself, he wasn't a household name. Any idea if he had feelings about that, about everyone knowing his music but not knowing who he was?
I think it was very deliberate. Rod's nickname was the Invisible Man because he didn't like attention. He just, he wanted his work to speak for itself. And I think if you know music, you know who he is. You know what I mean? It's like I think it's so much cooler that way, because he wasn't he didn't care about fame. He didn't care about any of that. I mean, he was in Heatwave in the height of their career, and right as they were taking off, he said, "I'm gonna, stop touring with you guys and go start writing. I'll keep writing your songs, but I don't want to tour anymore." Like, he didn't want the limelight. That was his whole thing. So he was really low key. I mean, I have so many funny stories about that. I mean, like, even in the town that he lived in the UK, there was a kind of like a guessing game with one of the local shops there. Every time they'd go in, they'd try and guess what he did for a living, and he would never tell them. So he was very, very, very low key on purpose. I don't think he had any problem with that. In fact, it was by design.
There's certain songwriters and producers of his ilk where if you look at their discography, they're writing songs every year. It seems like every day. Somebody like Jim Vallance, he always is writing, or at least was writing, but Rod's discography is very small. And that leads me to wonder, how is it that you got connected with him in the first place? Because it wasn't like he was always seeking out new collaborators.
Yeah, Rod was really particular with who he liked to work with. His discography was, I don't know if I would say small so much as just like it was more of, quality over quantity. Everything he released had to be to a certain standard. But he also, just Heatwave alone, he wrote every single song for Heatwave. And that band alone had hundreds of songs. So, Rod definitely had a very big discography, but we got connected because we had the same publisher. And like I said, Rod was really selective, and I don't know what it was. Like he's very particular in, I guess, the voices that he gravitates towards, and I think he kind of likes more of a clean sounding voice. And that's something that he always said he liked about my voice. So maybe that's why he, was interested in writing for me. But it turned into so much more than just like writing. He really became, like I said, one of my best friends. Like, he was one of my closest friends. We spoke on the phone once a week for like an hour or two every week since I met him. And we met when I was like 16. So he really took me under his wing and really, taught me everything I know about writing and how I approach music today. It's like so much has to do with what he taught me.
And then back to you here, the new album, Black Sheep, of course, but the single that came out within the last 2 weeks was Nerve. When in the process of making that album did that song get created?
That was actually one of the first songs, kind of before I started deliberately working on an album. I was just like writing a ton until I started to see sort of a pattern form of like vibe and songs that I thought would go well together. And then I started thinking more in terms of an album. And Nerve was one of the first songs that came about because it actually does have to do with Rod, this song. When he passed away, I wanted to write something for him. And it was really a daunting task because to try and capture what someone who meant as much to me as Rod did, trying to capture that feeling in a song is really, it's difficult, So it was every time I would start, I would stop. This doesn't do him justice. This isn't enough. And I was kind of going more the sentimental route. And then I realized, what would Rod want out of a song for me? And instead of trying to approach it of like a sad type song, I was like, I'm just going to write something I think he would have liked. And then that changed everything. And that's sort of why I went this sort of direction with the whole album, because it was very much inspired by that. And Nerve was written as that kind of tribute song to Rod. Even the lyrics, it's about someone who's kind of too cool for school, who really doesn't care what anyone thinks about him, who's already like proved himself to himself and just lives life for all the right reasons. And that's really how Rod was. So it's loosely based on the type of character he was.
And then going through your discography further, you worked with Phil Ramone, you've worked with Quincy Jones and Herbie Hancock. They have writing credits, I believe, on your last album. How much of this is you seeking out legends versus just organically publishers or people connecting you?
All my connections, like I've been really blessed to be able to have worked with so many people I look up to and admire. And I think that it's just that every opportunity that I've had has been met with a lot of hard work and an openness to continue to learn and try and pick up as much as I can from all of these amazing legends that really, have sort of supported me along the way. So I never really sought anything out like, oh, I have to go approach this person now. And it all happened just really naturally kind of. And, one thing kind of leads to another. And it's sort of a small circle once you get to that, I guess, level like Quincy and Herbie. I mean, Quincy introduced me to Herbie. So and then working with Stevie came also from Quincy. Quincy really was sort of like the head of so many of that stuff. It's funny because the one relationship that didn't come from Quincy that I met Rod before, I got like close, not before, but like kind of around the same time, but one had nothing to do with the other. It was really funny because they were best friends, but they didn't introduce me to each other.
Another facet of your career that's wonderful is how much charitable work you've done over the years. You've had a scholarship and all that. You've volunteered. You sing at tons and tons of benefits and all that.
Yeah.
Do you have an accomplishment related to your charitable work that you're most proud of?
I don't know that it's one specific accomplishment. I think that one of the one of the proudest moments I had when I was younger was I won, like when I was, I think 15 or 16, I helped raise over like $10 million for different charities. And I won like a philanthropist award when I was a kid. So that's a value that I've just been raised with. And it's something that I carry with me for my whole life. I think it's so important to give back. Especially within our religion, it's very important. It's written, you have to be charitable, and tzedakah is so important to the way that I approach everything. So, I think it's more just like a way of being rather than like a one specific thing that I've been proud of. I just think it's not even for the accolades. It's really just for the feeling of giving back and helping your community.
And you just brought up religion right there. And since this is going up on the Jewish Journal and all that, were you forced to sing at your bat mitzvah?
No, I actually was kind of not so traditional growing up. My bat mitzvah was me going to New York City with my mom, and we saw a bunch of Broadway shows. That was like my coming of age, was going to see like all these shows that I dreamed of going to when I was a kid and just going to New York City. But at my brother's bar mitzvahs, I wasn't forced to sing. I had basically forced them to let me sing. Those two, there's videos of that, of me being like, I guess I was, at one of them, I was like 8 years old, and I was on the stage, like giving me the mic and let me sing.
Now, the ages of 12, 13, 14 is usually when people start to go to a lot of bar and bat mitzvahs, yet that was when your career was really taking off. Did you have to miss that chapter of your life?
I missed a few parties for sure, but I don't regret it because, I mean, like, I feel like once you've been to a few, it's like the same crowd. It's a small community here, so you get the idea. It'd be nice. But honestly, I didn't really have that many aside from my brothers and, that I really needed to be at. Any family gatherings I would obviously go to, but like for my friends and stuff, I missed out on some things when I was a kid. But like I said, it was all by choice. Like I could have said, no, I don't want to take this event. I don't want to sing here. But for me, my singing was what was most important. So that's what I was going for,
When I interview artists that are Jewish, no matter how religious they are or not, some artists seem to mention the fact that they're Jewish every other line. Like when you talk to Gene Simmons from Kiss, it just comes up all the time. But in your everyday life, does it come up when you speak to a lot of other artists that are Jewish when that happens? Or is it more like you're culturally there and that's how you were born and you're proud of it, but you just kind of leave it there?
It comes up organically. I wouldn't say that like I deliberately go and bring it up and be like, I'm Jewish. I think it's kind of obvious, but like just for my name alone, my name and my hair really gives me away. But, it's funny because it's something I'm super proud of and, take a lot of pride in. And it just, you kind of get a feeling. I always joke with my family. We have this expression. I'm sure you've heard it, member of the tribe. You just get a feeling. And I actually have a really hilarious story about that. I never thought I'd be able to tell the story, but
bring it on.
When I started working on this album, I sat in the studio with Zach and Roger for the first time, my producers, and somehow there was another songwriter in that specific session named, I think his name is Jesse. Anyway, we were writing a song and he had mentioned that he had just got engaged. And I said, Mazel Tov, just as a, knee-jerk reaction. That's how I speak,
Sure.
And he was like, he didn't bat an eye. He just said, oh, thanks. And then I was like, are you Jewish? Because like, it was just so natural. And he's like, yeah. And then Zach is like, yeah, I'm Jewish too. And then Roger's like, I'm Jewish too. I'm like, are you kidding? All of us are Jewish. I had like a feeling, but I didn't know. And in that session, like I made the whole album. I mean, Zach and Roger are both Jews too, so this album is fully Jewish made. But it was just really hilarious how that happened. It wasn't planned. No one knew. It just like came up that all of us were. I'm like, what are the chances of that?
But thankfully, you didn't have to shut down for Shabbos or anything, right?
No. We were okay. But it was just kind of funny, especially in like the creative world. I feel like a lot of Jews are mostly pushed into being like, doctors, lawyers. Our parents are always like, oh, you have to do, to be in a creative field as a Jew. I guess it's more on the management side that you see that, so it was really funny to have like all of the creatives being members. It was just funny.
Have you ever had any pressure to do an all Hanukkah album or something like that?
No, I actually get a lot of pressure to do a Christmas album. It's really funny. And I'm like, well, I don't really know any Christmas songs. I'd have to learn all of them. But I mean, if Barbra Streisand can do it, who knows? Maybe down the line I will. And then I'll sneak a little Yiddish into like a scat or something like that.
I think the list of the Christmas Jews is Barbra Streisand, Neil Diamond, and Kenny G. So potentially you could be the fourth or fifth.
I mean, a lot of my favorite Christmas songs are actually written by Jews. Maybe that's how I would do it. I'd pick songs that were written by Jews.
That is a great idea, and I hope that happens at some point. So bringing it back to you, Black Sheep, new album and all that. And, of course, everyone's touring is kind of on hold at the moment. But do you know what the rest of 2020 looks like if, we're all let out in a month or two?
Honestly, it's just so up in the air. I had shows planned for April that have been postponed now. Like, I can't. Obviously, we have to just be safe. And me personally, I don't want to have the feeling of being responsible for having any group of people around, for coming to see my show. Like, I don't want to have that on my shoulders. I need to be responsible and respectful for humanity at this point. So I'm not really thinking like that. But I think realistically, 2021 is when things are really going to pick up. Probably in the fall, end of 2020, 2021, I'll be touring,
And worst case scenario, you'll do a lot of webcasts and all that to keep your name and face out there?
Definitely. I'm already doing that. Mostly, I mean, it's good, obviously, to keep your name out there, but really, I just want to help the people who already even know who I am just to, keep a smile on their face. I've been doing a lot of Instagram Live, singing for people, posting things, releasing music still, because I just want people to be distracted. I mean, we're inside anyways, might as well. I said dance parties alone are still fun, so.
Right on. So in closing, any last words for the kids?
Any last word for the kids? Call your mom. As a Jew, I'm going to say that. And, stay safe, stay inside, and be responsible. That's it. Great.
You gave me so much to work with. Thank you so much for your time. Stay great, and hope to see you live in New York in the near future.
Yeah, you too. And Shabbat Shalom.
Great Shabbos there. Take care.
Paltrocast.